I think it's safe to say that the online results for this deck haven't been great so far, which is, to be fair, normal with a lot of people trying it out for the first time. But to try help increase that win rate, I thought I'd do a quick gameplay video montage in order to show some of the basic play patterns and strategies. These were the first 3 Talishar games that I played after deciding to make this video. This ain't a setup, I promise. So the heroes were random, but I think we ended up with a good spread. Commentary will be retrospective, but I haven't deeply analysed any of the games and will mostly be going off notes that I made while playing. And if you'd like to see more Fab content like this, then feel free to subscribe. Lastly, if you see my Barbed Castaway video, link below if not, then I'll quickly make you aware that this list is slightly different, with cards like Frailty Trap coming out for Take Cover and a few other minor tweaks. For the most part, the deck plays the same though. To start things off, we have an Aurora game versus my friend with the new Armory deck cards. I'll not be commenting on everything, just highlighting a few things here. Generally into Aurora, I like to go second so I can get tempo off the bat, but going first and setting up a double arsenal and blocking nicely on the first turn is quite good. And when I say nicely, I mean just maybe blocking 6 and then sending back with a 4-card hand is pretty nice. But also Aurora's first turn generally isn't that good either. So I note here that as well, he was playing the Flicker Wisp combo, which you can tell by the Crown of Dominion and the Ether Ironweave. This is generally easier to play into, because they have less armor to block with. I guess you could get high rolled, but we take those chances. I was just thinking if there any line there that he could take where he would play an instant to get a draw off the channel and make use of it, but I figured he didn't. So I held the trap in Arsenal, and I'm just firing the Remorseless, pitching the Lace of Inertia because the Seek and Destroy effect is a lot better than the Inertia effect. Needless to say, Remorseless is pretty crazy in this matchup. So I knew he was going to play the Lightning card there, get my value from the Boulder Trap. Lovely unused gauntlets there, which is pretty nice. Grasp the Artnet, that's it. And I guess here, because I know he's under Seek and Destroy, I'm working out what can I block with and what do I not block with. The longer it takes Aurora to hit with Channel Lightning Valley, the worse her turn is generally. And here I think I just block with the Intoxicating Shot, because the draw doesn't matter unless he sees a blue. Then no, he's already activated Aurora actually. So yeah, this, even though he's got double channel up, it literally doesn't matter. They're both getting binned, so I don't mind taking this. He might have Snapdragoned in the resolution step, or sorry, in reactions, but that's taking a risk because he's not actually seen the cards yet. And if I have a trap, then that's quite a blowout for me. And my hand here is solid, just playing really good value numbers here. And I'm just abusing Remorseless here. Nope, that Tunic counter coming in very, very handy here. I find in this matchup as well that Nullrune Boots don't seem amazing most of the time, but it does force the Aurora to play differently. 5% and no AB, they kind of have free reign on what they do, whereas because I do have AB, they can't. And now here I'm just kind of checking what I've got engraved for the Murky. I think I go with the Heat Seeker here if I remember correctly, because it just requires 1 card to fire, it doesn't require a yellow or a blue. And yeah, so I went with the Heat Seeker, which I do again. And now here I'm just deciding if I want to stop the Stone Rain draw. Sorry, not the Stone Rain. The Channel Lightning Valley draw, which I did not, because I probably figured that I wanted to make sure I could block the Burn Up Shock. Although, with hindsight, probably could have paid for it and then still blocked out. As well, to talk about the quiver quickly, I'll only use it for two things in this matchup. That is for stopping a Sigil of Suffering ping on my turn when they've got Channel Lightning Valley up, or just to stop it if I think I get value by forcing through the on-hit, or like the game is kind of hanging in the balance and say they're coming at me with an Arc Lightning turn, they have Channel up, I'll use that quiver to delay the Channel draw for as long as possible. Giving up the Tunic here was a tough decision, but I figured that I'm stopping an extra 4 damage and another card draw, so the value is there, but it's a tough decision to make. Also meant that I did retain my life buffer, so like on a turn here where I have a lot of buffs and I can't block very well, then I can actually take this damage and send something back and not be behind as well. Because to be honest, the hand of Endless Arrow, Codex, and Heatseeker doesn't really do anything, so yeah, it just wasn't worth keeping it. And giving up Tunic does make it a bit awkward to play Storm Rain later in the game. But it's a risk I was willing to take. And you'll note here that because I've got Heatseeker in Arsenal and Premeditate in hand, that is the dream combination of things to have. Because I get a face-up card in Arsenal and a Ponder as well, which I put face down in Arsenal. So card advantage-wise, that is an insane value play. Now, I think I expected him to swing again here, which is why I held back on the Remorseless. But seeing as he didn't, and I got to keep the Remorseless, I may as well just make sure that the Heatseeker hits. And generally, we're not going to second cycle, so I did say earlier that Seek and Destroy is slightly better than Inertia, which I do think is true. If you can, get your arrow to high numbers, it, for the most part, doesn't really matter. I guess because from Seek and Destroy, this is very unfortunate actually. This ordering is horrible. If it was the other way around, it would be amazing. But yeah, with Seek and Destroy, you get the info of what your opponent's lost as well, which is quite nice. So yeah, here I pop my quiver. I've got an arrow face up, which means I'm preventing 2 arcane, and I want to delay my opponent from getting any draw from that channel for as long as I can. I've got a good defensive hand, so I know I can do it. And as well, I'm quite far ahead here, so I don't mind popping the quiver to make sure I stay ahead. But if I am keeping track, this is his last Arc Lightning, and that's the last channel up. Luckily, he's not seen a Flicker Wisp with any of these Arc Lightning turns, otherwise I would be in a bit of trouble. Yeah, I give him the draw here because I know I can't prevent it forever, and I just figured I'd get better value from my cards, potentially by using them to block as opposed to pitch for the arcane. Maybe could have used the Buzzsaw to pitch, but I don't know. Aurora runs quite a few on-hits as well, so it's nice having the ability to stop physical damage too. Oh, and case in point, Burnout Shock. This is one that I did want to block, so keeping the traps or keeping the buzzsaw trap instead of pitching it, is something that looked like the right decision at the time, but I do remember what happens this turn, which is quite unfortunate. So I'm just trying to hold the inertia trap and the buzzsaw trap for as long as possible, because I want to get value out of their effects, not just use them as 3 blocks. Another thing that I considered actually on this turn is just giving up the inertia trap and then keeping Murky, keeping Seek and Destroy, and keeping the buzzsaw trap, because that would be 7 damage threatening to get a trap back, which would be lethal. If I also just didn't block at all, I could use Long Draw to guarantee that it's lethal damage, but my opponent here on this turn is presenting a lot, and so I thought, why take the risk and just try block it out. And then, yeah, we see the Exude here, which was pretty devastating. Luckily, I'm quite far ahead, but it's still a pretty nasty play here. And I think I decide to pitch the buzzsaw trap after this, just get some value from it. Maybe not. Yeah, in hindsight, I should have pitched the buzzsaw trap here. Just don't bother IPing myself. Okay, I do pitch it, I think. Just send 7 and keep that inertia trap in arsenal, which is quite nice. So yeah, I missed out on 1 extra life by not pitching that buzzsaw sooner, and if I'd pitched at the start of the turn, I'd have 2 extra life, but I didn't know. Exude being at the kind of middle end of a turn is a bit unusual. I'm guessing he just drew into it, but still. Yeah, that was a crazy Aurora turn. Just shows you the kind of damage she can do. Fortunately, no Flicker Wisp. We can see here as well the power of the deck once my opponent's armor is gone. These breakpoints coming for 7 become so much harder to block. Now the fact that I'm given a snatch here and he somersaults telegraphs the fact that he has no other attack action in hand, which means I'm expecting something like a lightning press, and I don't know what the last card is, but this hand fortunately covers that eventuality very well. And so in my head here, I'm just thinking, I've got 2 inertia traps, so obviously he'll snap dragons, he won't do any other reaction yet. I'll do the first inertia, and then after that he will lightning press once it's resolved, and then the last inertia can ping him and give him an inertia token. And then my play is just going to be Remorseless for 5, arsenaling the Stone Rain, and that Stone Rain is hopefully going to be what we use to kill. And so I'm just thinking here, how much Arcane does he have left in the deck? So we've seen 2 burn up shots in his grave there, not seen a single Sigil of Suffering, and we're quite late into the game. So at this point I'm wondering if he's even playing it. I figure he's not, so I just don't respect it. Plus, I'm pitching a blue this coming turn, so I can pay for 2 or 1 of them. And now this should strip most of the damage from his hand, then I'll have space to play my Stone Rain and kill him on the next turn. Which I swear was my thinking at the time. Hindsight's 2020, but it was that's the plan. Even though I didn't pitch too much this turn for AB, the fact that I have the Null Room boots up here just gives me that extra layer of protection that I need to kind of stay alive. It's like a safety blanket. Oh, speaking of the devil, yep, this is where they prove their worth. Fortunately, I have the perfect hand to stop this turn. Just shows you the power of the 4 blocks. Even though they're not officially traps, they do plenty for the deck. Here, 7 Dominate, he has to have a Sigil of Solace to survive this. He doesn't, he shows me the Flicker Wisp. And that's the first game done. So the second game here is against Vynnset. Vynnset is quite an even matchup for Barbed Castaway. So I know at the start of the game here there's a few interesting things. Firstly, this Vynnset player is fat decking, which means my usual approach of fatigue is probably not really viable. However, it does open up the possibility of me playing a bit more of an aggro strategy into him because his deck will be less consistent. Here I open a horrible opening hand as well, with no arrows, but I just kind of keep the 2 cards that will be most useful for my turn should I see any arrows on the next turn. And luckily I do see a Heat Seeker here. Now I'm not sure why I chose to aim here. It's a waste of a resource which telegraphs I don't have another arrow in hand, but also means that if he's playing Sigil Suffering, which isn't too common, then I can't pay for it. I don't want to pitch an entire card just for 1 damage. Another interesting thing here to note is that my opponent is on Grasp of the Art Knight instead of Vexing Quill Hand, which means he's definitely sideboarded as though he was against a fatigue deck here. Which puts me off wanting to fatigue him, to be fair, but the deck can pivot quite nicely to just kind of beat him down. So I'm just playing it safe, pitching for the rune chance, stopping anything like Succumb, and trying to delay any culls that he might have. Now here I also noticed that he's on Reaping Blade, again super prepared for fatigue. If this were a Flail of Agony Vynnset, I would maybe reconsider giving the long draw here, because that's really nice for stopping the flail. But because he's not, there's nothing wrong with giving the long draw here. And of course the Collapsing Trap is very welcome. Triggering both traps in hand, which is great value, especially because he's on Grasp, so that Boulder Trap is 6 value here, which is pretty nice. Unlike against Aurora, I just use the Quiver in this matchup whenever I have an arrow face up. I just get that value as soon as I can. And so there it is, the cull. Our opponent banishes it off the top. Luckily we're playing around it very nicely this turn, and in future turns we can play around it pretty well as well. And this is the perfect value hand with Tunic about to hit 3. And that cull is probably not going to hurt us. If we really want, we can stop that cull from doing anything to us this turn. Let's see how we play it out. Seeing Oblivion, is it Oblivion? The one that summons the ally. Seeing that pitched here is very, very, very welcome sight, as that is probably one of the more annoying cards in this matchup. So I take the Runechant here. I know he's got the Cull, so there's nothing stopping him from playing it here. Like, I could have pitched Line It Up and Murky Water. Value-wise, it's kind of the same. Okay, so my opponent makes a mistake here. He culls in the reaction step, which means I can respond. But then I make a mistake as well. So I trigger Riptide, reloading the Heatseeker, which is correct, but then I sink the Line It Up, which I shouldn't do because I can just pitch it from my bow to aim and then pay for another Runechant later in the turn, which he will be making. But instead of that, I just pitch away and I lose 1 value. And I shouldn't sink because I know my deck is mostly reds, and the odds of me seeing a card that's a yellow or a blue are quite low. So here I've got my arrow face up, pop my quiver just to get that 2 free value basically. Again, showing the strength of Barbed Castaway. This is all done on his turn, which is very strong. But overall, I don't really like how I played this turn. I think if someone knows the matchup a bit better, they use that cull a bit more effectively. I don't like that I sunk when I did, and I also don't like that I used Take Cover here. It's a pointless block because I'm not actually stopping the on-hit of Eloquent Eulogy because he does have the sword to swing at me after. So all I'm doing is blocking for 4 when I don't really have to. I can save that. It's not like I'm, choked up for space in my arsenal. With this play here, so nice with Tunic, so nice. And I get the helmet from him. It's also, to be fair, hard for Face Poetry to get value into Riptide just because of his reload mechanic in general. We don't get value from the trap here, but we're just playing the best numbers essentially at this point in the game. We're quite far ahead. Our opponent still hasn't set up his engine properly. He's only seen 1 aura all game, which is probably because he was fat decking a little bit. And then we see one of my new tech cards getting banished. But to use a generic term, this is like your bread and butter play for a Barbed Castaway deck. So just Riptide in general. 2 card 7, 2 on hits, really hard to block out. Just insanely good value. So here I'm putting the -1 counter. In the end I do put on the Tunic, which is correct, because ideally I want him to block with the Spellbound Creepers, because that's the card that could possibly get him back into the game. That's where Vynnset pushes a lot of damage on her turns. And putting the -1 counter on the Tunic, I don't know, I just figured the Tunic was less value than the Creepers. They're often there to service each other. Although I guess in this matchup, because he's on Reaping Blade, it's slightly different. Mothering Skies is probably a card I didn't expect to see. It's not one I think Vynnset still plays too often. Fortunately, we have the perfect reply for both of these cards. Again, he does have the Cull, which I have to be aware of. But I can't pitch for the Rune Chants and stop the Moth Skies, really. I guess a play I could have done was I could have pitched one of the red arrows and pitched the yellow tar pit and then blocked with an arrow and blocked with the boulder trap in my arsenal, but I just figured it's not amazing value. I just wanted to get the value from my tar pit. I'm quite far ahead here, so I don't know, I just went with this line instead. Actually, now I know why I didn't do that. I didn't do that because he's swinging at me with Reaping Blade, and then if I'd taken that other line, I just have Codex in hand, he deals damage, he calls me, and I lose my only play for the turn. So in double retrospect, I'm actually happy with that line. I'll also note now, he's got 0 auras up, so his rune chant generation per turn is capped at 1 from Vynnset and then 1 from the Grasp of the Art Knight, which he has to pitch for, which is a bit awkward for him. And I guess the only card I'm scared of here is Deadwood Dirge, which is really good value if he plays it on my Frailty token that I've given him. But again, my opponent fat decked, so the odds of seeing these cards are a lot lower. So this is an interesting hand. Stopping Eloquence is quite relevant. Stops things like Cull from just getting go again off the bat. What do I do here? I just decide to take it. So another line I could have done here, because the Eulogy is only coming in for 3, I could have just blocked with the Inertia Trap, which I do, but I could have just pitched one of the cards in my hand for the Rune Chant with a spare resource, load up my sad little blue drill shot, and then Arsenal the Stone Rain for the following turn. Which is very strong because Tunic's going to be on 3 for when that Stone Rain is face down in Arsenal too. So yeah, this is a much more inefficient line. I end up IPing myself, not very good. But I think it's not a close game, so I got away with it. Once again, our trap triggers, which is quite nice, although this time it will give him a rune chant, but he's paid a life, so it doesn't really matter because he gets one anyway. cool line here I could have taken as well. If that Deathly Whale had been a red, I could have given him the Tunic in the reaction step, taking the counter off Tunic, and at instant speed flipped to give the Stone Rain an aim counter. Because I'm not going to get another Tunic counter for the rest of the game, probably anyway. But I just want to show you, talk about a cool line that you can do with Barbed Castaway. I don't bother blocking with the Endless because he's healing, so he's going up to 3 life, which... Oh, sorry, he took a blood debt. Yeah, but the fact that he's healing, I just want to guarantee that if I don't kill him, I still have an arrow that I can send on the following turn. Because the way I could lose from here is if I draw no arrows. And there's no point in blocking it outside of saving 3 life, which I don't need to do. Now here I'm playing around Cull again. I'm flipping the arrow face up before I'm loading with the arrow, so that I get to keep it. If he does Cull me, it makes Cull useless. And here we do see that he does play Sigil of Suffering, which meant that my play earlier with the Heat Seeker, where I flipped to aim for no reason, was a bit of a liability. But here I kill him for exact lethal. Again, Stone Rain seeing out the game, really, really strong card. Alright, and lastly for you guys, I've got a game into Dash.io. This is against my friend Marco. He won a RTN on this Dash.io list, or a similar one, and there's a video on my channel if you want to check it out. So, my goal into Dash.io most of the time is to fatigue. I've added Take Cover and Feign Death to help with that. Feign Death is just for usually maximum velocity, because like a 2-card 10 defensively is insane. Here we're seeing the value of Take Cover. I don't choose to reload here because I'm worried if he's got like a 0 for 4, then I'd have to give him armor at a time I don't need to. But I see he's got Spark here, so now I am safe to load, but because it's a Deadeye, I'm not sure loading here is the right play, because Deadeye is an on-hit that he has to block, and I want to get cards out of his hand. Although that being said, the hand wouldn't have been amazing for that play. That would have been fine actually, I could have arsenaled the D-React. So yeah, here I'm just giving him the Frailty, withholding information for as long as I can, so hitting him for Remorseless for 5, he should maybe have given his armor here, because the Remorseless is an insane value, but I don't think he did give me the armor. And here I'm keeping the Remorseless that has the encounter for a future turn, because I could pair it with a Deadeye. Yeah, so that was a bit of an interesting choice. My Tunic, if my Tunic was about to go into 3 on my next turn, I'd probably have arsenaled the Stone Rain. But because I'm trying to fatigue, I don't want to take damage to send damage back. Because, like, again, he still has his full armor suite up, so if he really wants to stop that Stone Rain from hitting, he could have. Once again, blocking 4 is very strong. The filter effect on Sink Below is very strong too, because I want to dig for collapsing trap in this matchup as quickly as possible. Sink Below, if I sink 3 times, I'm basically an entire turn cycle closer to getting to that collapsing. I decided to give my armor here, just get value from it now. And we can see playing that Codex of Frailty was actually pretty good value here. It saved me 2 life, which is actually quite good in a fatigue matchup. So because I've got the space to play the Stone Rain, do I play it anyway? I think I do. Yeah. So on this turn, I fired the Stone Rain because I expected him to block, and so I wouldn't get the Ponder, and I'd get the Inertia Trap and Arsenal. But if I'd known he wouldn't block this, I'd have sent the Remorseless, because I don't IP myself. But he decides to just take this like a champ. And I guess for him it's the same thing, right? He's either losing a card by blocking and saving life, or he's losing a card by not blocking and losing life. So on my end, that's probably the wrong way of thinking. If the Ponder had been a different on-hit, like a Seek and Destroy, then maybe it's a bit different. Signal Jammer basically doesn't really do much in this matchup. I played a bit Dash IO myself, and I've learned that the hard way. Sometimes you can high roll with it, but it's pretty inconsistent. Seeing a Max V banish there is pretty nice. Once again, take cover, doing really good work, catching out another Boom Grenade. And seeing 2 more Boom Grenades there is pretty nice. Yeah, I accidentally skipped blocks there. I don't know why, but here we go. So I should block with 2 cards here. My tune is about to be on 3, so if worst comes to worst, I can just send Remorseless for 5. I hold on to the Inertia Trap because he can't attack me for anything more than 4, given that he's already Foundry Hearted, and I want to try to get value from the trap if I can, but here I figure out keeping the life buffer high instead of sending what is kind of technically the better value play is more important. So far the only thing that's done damage is the Symbiosis shot. Now in this play here, I'm 100% expecting he'll just give me his armor, because value-wise that's very strong. But he doesn't, he tanks it again, wants to hold on to the armor, which is a benefit and a con for me. Because it means that if I want to, send some very meaningful on hits later in the game, I can't. But Remorseless is as meaningful as they get, pretty much outside of Deadeye. This is my first not great defensive hand. Luckily no Boom Grenade off the top this time. So I'm only running 2 Feign Death, 3 can be quite clunky. Like if he just goes 0 for 4, 0 for 4, 0 for 4, I'm not getting a lot of value out of having that Feign Death. So I could block with a Drill Shot here, but I'm wanting to play that Codex out just to slow him down a little bit, and I need to keep a card in hand if I do play that Feign Death, because this could have been a maximum, well it could be a maximum velocity turn, which is why I'm holding on to this stuff. Just checking to see what he's been through so far. And here we get very much rewarded for holding on to that Feigned Death till the end of the turn. Not quite max V, but Heist is pretty good value to be blocking out here. Now, admittedly, this is a bit of a sad turn. I'm just sending 4 vanilla damage, but I am giving him the Frailty, and also I get the Ponder so I can get deeper into the deck faster. And here he decides to give me his armor, probably because it's near the end of the game. It's just a life-saving thing. So he definitely could have blocked better. But hindsight's 20/20, except for me when I'm reviewing this game, apparently. And yeah, if you're going for the fatigue angle, try not to give long draw. Try not to use the effect on long draw if you can avoid it, because it's very helpful for stopping the T-bones. I give the Tar Pit Trap here because it stops the on-hit for this, should he Boom Grenade off the top, and also stops the next one too. Once again, you got a bit unlucky there, banishing Cerebellum as the second card. Now, because he got that Boom Grenade up and he has a lot of floating resources, I'm continuing to carry over the effect of Tar Pit Trap, and again we're seeing the value on the long draw there, not cracking it. To be fair, I've not had space to crack it yet, but just as a reference point. And so this is a pretty telegraphed maximum velocity. By fully blocking out the 0 to 60, I'm once again carrying over the Tar Pit Trap effect for that Boom Grenade. So this is an interesting decision point in the game. I have two options. I play the value play of Premeditate into Endless Arrow if I want to try and win this game by just outright killing him, or I block 5 and commit to Fatiguing. He doesn't have a lot of threats left in deck, and he doesn't actually have a lot in deck either, so I have to make the decision at this point which one I'm doing, because if I take this maximum velocity, I probably can't fatigue him, and I decide to commit to the fatigue. And the Tar Pit Trap nicely stopping that Boom Grenade from hitting, and the Codex nicely preventing another 1 damage. So yeah, that rubbish Codex turn, where I just fired a what's it called? Stone Rain. I gave him a Frailty, 1 value, sent 4 damage, and then I also got a Tar Pit Trap from that Ponder, which stopped that Boom Grenade from blowing up. So that's a lot of value off 1 card. Here, this is a rubbish offensive hand, so I'd have been not rewarded for choosing the aggro angle on that last turn. And here I just decide to save the Sync Blow for later. I'm just covering up 3 vanilla damage here. That breakpoint that Sync Blow stops could be very important for winning this game, so I decide to keep it for next turn. I imagine here I probably cycle away the Feigned Death. And we'll see how many counters Long Draw ends up being on by the end of this game. Here I just get my value, blocking 4 for 4, staying alive, getting rid of the card that doesn't block. So he shoots gun. I could take 2 here to fire back 6 and get a trap back in my arsenal, but I've already got what's probably the best trap in this matchup in Tar Pit Trap, so I don't really need to do that. I don't like my play on this turn. I should just pitch away the inertia trap because we're so late in the game. The inertia doesn't matter, the damage doesn't matter. It's just a vanilla 3 block that stopped me from getting deeper into the deck. So he's finding all his good items, but these are a little bit too late, I think. Given the inertia trap here just so I have the option of blocking New Horizons. Which happens to perfectly cover this zipper hit. Gee, you'd think I was playing this game in retrospect, but I wasn't. Yeah, and this is the last defensive play of the game. Just decide to Tar Pit. So that boom grenade is definitely not hitting. If this boom grenade had hit and the last boom grenade had hit, I'd be dead. So that's showing the value of Tar Pit Trap. And then he just plays out these last few actions out of spite because he doesn't want to admit the fact that he lost to me. And of course I see Tar Pit Trap on, I see Collapsing Trap on the turn where the dash IO doesn't have go again. But it just shows you don't need the Tar Pit Trap to win. I don't know, I keep saying Tar Pit. Collapsing Trap. And there you have it. 3 games that have hopefully given you some more insight into how to play Barbed, Castaway, Riptide. As you'll have seen, if you made it this far, the boat offers a lot of fun options for both your turns and your opponent's turns, but it can also be a bit counterintuitive if you're used to, say, aggro Riptide. A lot of your payoff in this deck comes from prior turns and from setting up slowly, but the reward is great. If you have any questions about the deck or improved lines from these videos, then please let me know in the comments, and with that, I wish you a good day.